You know that feeling when you open your mouth to speak in another language, and suddenly you're hyper-aware of every syllable? Your voice sounds wrong. The rhythm feels off. It's like you're wearing someone else's clothes and they don't quite fit. That discomfort isn't just in your head. It's a very real psychological and neurological response to something most people don't even realize is happening. If you've ever felt embarrassed speaking with an accent or avoided speaking altogether because you didn't want people to hear how you sound, you're not alone. Most language learners experience this at some point, and the strange part is, it often gets worse before it gets better. But why? Your brain has spent your entire life building a very specific map of who you are. Part of that map is your voice, the pitch, the rhythm, the way certain sounds feel in your mouth. These aren't just mechanical features, they're deeply tied to your sense of identity. When you speak your native language, your brain recognizes that voice as you. There's no disconnect. But when you speak in another language with an accent that sounds unfamiliar, something remarkable happens. Your brain registers a mismatch. You open your mouth expecting to hear yourself, but what comes out doesn't match the internal model your brain has been using for decades. It's a version of you but distorted, and your brain doesn't like that. Think of it like hearing a recording of your own voice. Most people hate that experience. Why? Because the voice you hear when you speak, conducted through the bones in your skull, sounds different from the voice everyone else hears. When you hear a recording, you're confronting an external version of yourself that feels foreign. Speaking with an accent creates a similar kind of dissonance, but amplified. There's also something happening on a deeper social level. Accents carry meaning. They signal where you're from, your background, sometimes even your education level or social status. When you speak in your native language, your accent is just part of you. It's neutral. But when you speak in a second language, your accent suddenly becomes visible. You become hyper-aware that you're being marked as an outsider. And here's where it gets interesting. Your brain is wired to monitor how others perceive you. There's a region in your prefrontal cortex that's constantly running a background simulation, trying to predict what other people are thinking about you. It's an evolutionary tool that helped our ancestors navigate complex social groups. When you speak with an accent, that social monitoring system goes into overdrive. You're not just focused on finding the right words or constructing a grammatically correct sentence. You're also monitoring facial expressions, tone shifts, any sign that the person you're speaking to might be judging you. That's a lot of cognitive load, and it's exhausting. So what can you do about it? First, it helps to understand that the discomfort is actually a sign that your brain is doing its job. It's trying to protect your social standing, trying to help you fit in. The anxiety isn't irrational. It's just overactive. The breakthrough comes when you start to separate your voice from your identity. Your accent in a second language isn't a flaw. It's just information. It tells people you speak more than one language, which is objectively impressive. But most learners don't see it that way. They see it as evidence of inadequacy. Here's a reframe that might help. Native speakers don't actually expect you to sound like them. They expect you to sound like someone learning their language. And in most cases, they're not judging you nearly as harshly as you're judging yourself. Your brain is running a threat detection program that's overly sensitive. It's seeing danger where there often isn't any. There's also a neurological dimension to this that's worth understanding. When you speak in a language that's not fully automatic yet, you're using different neural pathways than you use for your native language. Your native language is processed quickly, largely in the left hemisphere with very little conscious effort. But a second language, especially in the early and intermediate stages, recruits more areas of your brain. Your working memory is more active. Your attention is more divided. And because you're thinking harder about what you're saying, you're also more aware of how you're saying it. That self-awareness, ironically, makes the discomfort worse. The more you focus on your accent, the more unnatural your speech becomes. It's like trying to think consciously about how you walk. Suddenly, walking feels awkward. But here's the part most people miss. That discomfort doesn't last forever. It fades as your brain starts to accept this new version of your voice as legitimate. The key is exposure. The more you speak, the more your brain updates its internal model. Slowly, the accent stops feeling foreign. It starts to feel like just another part of you. Not your default, maybe, but still you. And something interesting happens when you reach that point. The anxiety drops away, not because your accent has disappeared, but because you've stopped seeing it as a threat. You've made peace with sounding different. That's the shift. Not perfection, just acceptance. And once you get there, speaking becomes easier. Not because the mechanics have changed, but because you're no longer fighting yourself. So, if you're struggling with this, Know that the discomfort is temporary. Your brain just needs time to adjust. Keep speaking. Keep exposing yourself to that unfamiliar sound. And eventually, it won't feel unfamiliar anymore. If this resonated with you, or if you've experienced this kind of discomfort yourself, I'd be curious to hear about it in the comments. And if you're interested in more explorations of how the mind works when learning languages, consider subscribing. There's a lot more to uncover.